The serene setting of Baltimore's Inner Harbor will come alive today as the American Le Mans Series makes its inaugural visit to the city's streets. And while the series has competed in the Mid-Atlantic region before with a great event in Washington, D.C. in 2002, nothing can compare to the thrilling finish from the series' last round.
Because Guy Smith has caught Klaus Graf. Oh, Guy Smith who makes the pass on the grass to get through and stay on the tail of the leader. And into the king. Surely Guy Smith is not going to try it there. Lucas Lowe thinks he can't do that, and surely he doesn't. He pulls out of it. Look at that. He's going to start biting his fingernails any second now. Here's a chance for Guy Smith as the GT car's ahead, and that's the GT leader. He's getting in the way. They both had to get out of the throttle, and Guy's down the inside. There's still more traffic, and Guy gets a great run. The GTC class leaders now become part of the equation. Lucas Lowe can't watch. The Dyson boys are cheering their man on. Here's the leaders through the kink. Guy Smith has got very, very feisty. He sniffs blood here at the head of the field. And look at this, nose to tail, they're tied together. Oh, that's magnificent stuff.
Oh, wow.
ESPN and the American Le Mans Series are proud to bring you coverage of Round 7 of the 2011 season, the Baltimore Grand Prix, from the streets of Baltimore, Maryland. Brought to you by Chevrolet and America's premier sports car, Corvette. Baltimore certainly knows professional sports. It's home to World Championship baseball and football franchises. But for the last 18 months, the city has been focused on preparing for its first professional motorsports event. Engineers, paving crews, and contractors have been hard at work paving sections of the track, building walls and catch fencing in preparation for the race. Likewise, American Le Mans Series teams have been preparing for the season's second street circuit, but sometimes even the best preparation isn't enough, as this weekend one of the series championship contenders has struggled. Jamie Howe has more.
Muscle Milk Aston Martin Racing has not had the best start of the weekend. They have yet to even turn a lap behind the wheel of the car on this Baltimore circuit. The team realized they had no electrical power in turn 3 of lap 1 of practice. They quickly dove in, realized they needed to replace the entire wiring loom as well as the power steering unit. Klaus Graf, this team has been here all night working. Are you ready for the race?
Well, I hope so. I mean, all I can say, it's what an achievement by the team, by the Muscle Milk crew. And I have to point out one guy, Lee, who did all the looming and all the repair work on the electrical side, and he worked all night. And if you see the work, the amount of work, first looking at it, you see all the cables, you think that, oh, come on, this is never going to work out. And he did it, so hats off to him and the entire crew, and I'm very proud of the team.
Circuit. Anytime you come to a street circuit, you'll hear the term street fight used, and we've already seen some of that throughout practice and qualifying. Tempers short and tempers flaring. In fact, in qualifying, the 45 of Patrick Long and the 62 Ferrari of Jamie Mello argued over a little piece of real estate. Patrick Long did not take it kindly and retaliates into the back of the 62 Ferrari. Both drivers would get a penalty, and they'll have to start from the back. We want to cover both sides of that story, so we'll start first by heading down to the pits with Kelly Stavist and Jamie Mello.
Jamie Mello and his teammate Tony Vielander had hoped to carry momentum following a win in the last round here to Baltimore, but after contact in qualifying, they were penalized along with the 45 car and will start from the back of the grid. Now, Jamie, what happened during that qualifying lap, and do you agree with those penalties?
Well, first of all, I don't agree. Basically, coming out of the turn 4, I touched the wall and I lost my right mirror, and I just slowed the car down to check everything, and unfortunately, Patrick was coming on his flying lap, and I had no place to go, so I was on the race line, and basically I disturbed his lap, and after turn 5, on braking to turn 6, he just touched me from the back and damaged my rear right rear, and I couldn't finish the qualifying. I don't agree with the decision, but it is what it is. So the race is starting in a few minutes, and we see what we can have.
All right. Well, there's two sides to the story, and for that other side of it, here's Jamie Howe.
Thank you.
Well, when an incident occurs, there are two cars involved, and it was Patrick Long behind the wheel of the number 45 Flying Lizard Motorsports Porsche. Patrick, from your seat, what was going on behind the wheel?
Well, street racing is tough and the action is always close, and yesterday's qualifying was no exception. The bottom line is we had some good flyers and a good race car underneath us, and I was hopeful for a front row starting position and just kept getting balked by traffic. And you know, under the past scenarios, not much has been done about blocking in the ALMS, and other scenarios in other series, sometimes it's a 5 or a 10 grid position penalty, and I decided to communicate my displeasure, and you know, making a little bit of contact was not to try and take Jamie out. It was a first gear corner, and it was really just about voicing my displeasure. We go a long way back. I have a lot of respect for him and the Reezy guys, and I think all is understood. We shook hands and had a good morning at the drivers meeting, and now it's just about going out there and trying to win this race from the behind.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Till, along with sports car races Johnny O'Connell and Bill Adam at a brand new street circuit here in Baltimore. And Bill, anytime we come to a street circuit, it has plenty of challenges.
It always does. Unlike the luxury of a regular road racing circuit, if you spin off there, you can rejoin the race. You spin here, you're into a concrete wall, you are out. And if that isn't enough, you have different pavements, so the grip levels change. Trying to wind your way through is always difficult. And for a couple of our guys, our regular championship leaders, they're starting from the back to get through the whole field and win. Boy, that's a real uphill battle for these fellas.
And one of the things that we've noticed all weekend long, Johnny, is just how close the lap times are throughout the 4 different classes of cars. At the drop of the green, what can we expect?
You know, you're right, Brian, but particularly in the prototype categories, you have the LMPC cars very, very close to the LMP1 cars. You know, this could actually be the first time an LMPC car wins overall.
Let's take a look at our Porsche track description.
Well, perhaps the best spot for passing at this track is at the end of the long 165-mile-an-hour front straight into turn 1. Very tight all the way down to about 30 miles per hour. And the second area of interest, turn 4. It looks relatively tame, but because the track narrows, the pavement changes consistency, and it's off camber, really dangerous.
A tricky part, and Bill, those parts of the racetrack, concrete, but then you get some very smooth pavement going up into turn 5. You might see a brave guy try to overtake somebody there, all right? But to me, the most exciting parts of the racetrack are 9, leading onto a long back straightaway that goes into 10 and 11. You're in top gear but in those areas, and having to brake, turn the car at the same time. That's where, if we're gonna have a big one, it's gonna happen there today.
We'll be calling the race for you today, John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw.
Well, we've heard about the design, the build, and the physical layout of the circuit here at Baltimore, but Jeremy Shaw, what's it going to be like to race on when we drop the green flag?
It's going to be absolutely fascinating. It's a very tight, bumpy street circuit here. Because of the nature of the layout of the track, it means that the lap times between the prototypes and the GT cars is much closer than would normally be the case.
So hang on a second, are you saying there's a possibility here, Jeremy, for a winner on the top step of the overall podium that isn't from the top class?
Nail on head, that's exactly what I'm saying. And the reason for that is the big prototypes, they could definitely got to make 2 pit stops around here unless there's a lot of caution periods. The LMP Challenge cars, well, they're almost as fast around here, but they can do 65 minutes on a tank of fuel. So they for sure can get to the finish of this race with just 1 pit stop. The weather conditions this afternoon, that's also going to be a factor. There's been the threat of rain. If that comes into effect, I think the GT cars also are going to be right in the mix.
Oh my goodness me, what a fantastic prospect. And let's get down to the pit lane for more atmosphere before the green flag.
Well, Chris Dyson and Guy Smith have held a pretty comfortable lead in the point standings throughout the entire season, and now the number 2 place car will be starting from pit lane. So Chris, with that lead in the standings and knowing you already have a pretty big gap on your closest competitor, how do you approach the start of this race?
Well, you know, we're racing every race to win this year, you know, and this weekend is no exception, regardless of where the competitors are. And you know, we've had a great car this weekend. You know, the G-Oil Mod Space Construct Core Mazda. You know, we're up front. The Dunlops are working beautifully around here, and we'd like to take it home today. So we're going to just be pushing from the outset and let the chips fall where they may.
They have an 18-point lead in the championship, but anything could happen. Thanks, Chris.
For the 6th race in a row, we have seen a BMW start at the front of the GT field. But for the first time this weekend, it is the number 55 machine of Bill Oberlin and Dirk Berner. It was Dirk Berner behind the wheel in qualifying. So Dirk, to be able to start at the front for the first time for you and Bill, what does it mean to your crew?
Well, I can't tell you how happy I was, and I'm sure the guys were very happy. The BMW is a strong car. I mean, 6 pole positions out of 7 races. That's quite a testimony to the speed of the car. But also the whole team is so well prepared. They really know how to set up a car, and this track was new for everybody. So that means this car really is fast, the team is good, we have good pit stops, the tires work, so for the race I think we should be in good shape, but the track is really challenging, and I think it needs every little bit of concentration to make it through turn 1 first of all, and then be able to make it through the race without a contact or an incident.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
Let's move away from GT to the other production-based category, GTC, and the points battle as we head into the end of the season. Very tight indeed, with Tim Pappas just leading from Duncan Endy and Spencer Pumpelly, but it's not been plain sailing for either of those teams this weekend.
It was a bizarre turn of events in the GTC qualifying session, but Jerome Blekemolen, you put the car on pole despite the challenges that you faced. What is the significance of this pole position to the team?
Well, it was amazing. I mean, we made a little mistake by not putting the wheel right, and I lost it already. I felt it already going out of pit lane. And then, then it came off right before pit entry, and I picked it up, drove it back, and in the end we took it. And there was a bit of luck involved, of course, because if you lose it in a different place, you're never going to get it back. So, we were lucky, but it was a great moment for all of us.
Well, on a street circuit, you've got to be lucky in order to do well. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Now, here's what he was talking about in Friday practice. First of all, we saw the 66 TRG car with Spencer Pumpelly second in the championship standings, making an uncharacteristic mistake. That car had to go away to be fettled at I'm sure a Porsche authorised repair dealer off the track. And then there's the wheel gone from the 54 car. And in a fantastic heads-up piece of thinking, Jerome Blekemolen goes back and gets the Yokohama tyre on the wheel. Why? Well, because the tyres are marked, and you can only use the 4 marked tyres for qualifying. Fantastic stuff, and of course then he claimed that pole position for Black Swan Racing.
Spencer Pumpelly and Duncan Endy sit just 11 points out of first place in the GTC category, but they suffered a major setback yesterday when Duncan backed the Porsche into a wall during qualifying. The crew has been working all night to make some pretty major repairs. But Spencer, you haven't had a chance to turn a lap since those repairs, so what are your expectations for this race?
Well, I tell you what, these guys at TRG were absolutely incredible. They worked all night, and I'm so fortunate to be part of this team and the guys that have this type of effort and put the passion into it that they do. Also have to say thanks to a guy named Jack at Europro's Body Shop who took our car, got it back together, did a fantastic job. I'm more confident in the car right now than the fact that we missed all the practice time and don't really have the setup worked out, but we're pulling stuff from our teammates, and we expect just to kind of give it our best. Hopefully we'll have a good piece, and what we missed in practice we'll learn at some point during the race.
All right, thanks, Spencer.
Thank you.
The other challenge category, of course, is the Le Mans prototype category. And no less of a battle there as we head into the last 3 events of the season. Eric Lux on his own in second place, with Ricardo Gonzalez and Gunnar Jeanette sharing the lead out on 102 points. John Bennett in third position, a little bit further back, sharing with Frankie Montecalvo. And plenty of points still to run, and of course extra points coming at Laguna Seca and at the longer race at the season finale at Petit Le Mans Atlanta. As you can see, the cars are on the pace lap. Going through our onboard cameras, there is our pole sitter. That is Chris Dyson behind the wheel of the G-Oil 16 Mazda powered Lola. Pat Long, despite that indiscretion, has been chosen by the 45Q team to start the race. Let's get back to that LMPC battle with Elton Julian down in the pit lane.
The qualifying session yesterday was one of the closest qualifying sessions that we've seen in the year. Elton Julian, this LMPC class is so tight in the nature of a street circuit. What can we expect from the race today?
I think we should expect a really good race. The circuit is wonderful. I mean, a lot of people complain about the bumps, but it's the same for everybody, and I think everybody's really enjoying it. I know that I am. I think it's up there with some of the best trajectories we've ever found in a street course. So I'm glad the turnout today is fantastic, so they can be sure that we're going to try very, very hard to put not only on a good show, but obviously for us win the race.
We're looking forward to it. Good luck.
Well, as the cars continue their first pace laps around this 2-mile circuit, let's find out who qualified in pole position for each of our 4 classes here at Baltimore.
Hi, I'm Mike Smith from York, England.
Hi, I'm Chris Dyson from Poughkeepsie, New York.
Hi, I'm Gunnar Jeanette from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Ricardo Gonzalez, Mexico City, Mexico.
Hi, I'm Dirk Werner. I'm from Würzburg, Germany.
I'm Bill Arbelin from Redondo Beach, California.
I'm Jeroen Bliekemolen and I'm from the Netherlands.
I'm Tim Pappas from Boston.
Fabulous shots from our Michelin aerial camera as the cars head around the street circuit. Before we go to the green flag, let's go to the LMP Challenge points leader with Kelly.
We've seen Gunnar Jeanette involved in some great battles throughout qualifying this entire season. This time he edged out Kyle Marcelli. But Gunnar, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So how can you make sure that your 06 Corrado Sports car gets the checkered flag?
Well, the number one thing is we're going to need to keep it off of Baltimore's finest walls. The track is very, very challenging. It's a great layout, but it's going to be very difficult. All the classes are very, very close in speed here. The GT cars are extremely fast, so getting around them in traffic is going to be difficult, and we just want to do our best, keep our heads down, and hopefully end up on that top spot.
And if they do, they'll extend their point standings in that championship. Thanks, Gunnar.
And don't forget, we might see those guys take an overall victory here today. As you can see, the weather has cleared up and the weather is set fair, so that rain that we were worried about at the moment is not a factor. They're heading to the green flag for the inaugural Baltimore Grand Prix in the inner harbour here at Baltimore, downtown Baltimore. The field looks absolutely fantastic. Now, it's important to note here that as they come onto Pratt Street, which is the start-finish line, there is a chicane halfway along to slow the cars down before the light rail tracks that's been working brilliantly well all weekend. By the way, grandstand seats, you want one too late. They were all sold out months ago. Absolutely fantastic crowd here. The chicane, however, will not be used for this start. So you'll see the two Dyson cars, the Geo car on the right of the circuit, our left now. Watch as they straddle it here. In the race, they'll be going through those eyebrows that make the chicane. You can see them bobbling over the railway tracks. Dennis Paul has the green flag and we're racing at Baltimore. The mare with the green flag helping Dennis Paul out, and it's a pretty good start. One of the Jaguars with a problem. Lock up from the lead. Of the lead Corvette, as well as down the inside comes Wolf Hensley, squeezes in there, and both the Corvettes are involved as Hensley went down the inside of the 17 Falcon car, and there's all kinds of traffic jams. This is what you get on city streets, and some of the main runners there, certainly the number 4 Corvette has been stuck, but the 3 car has gone through. And Jeremy Shaw, that was what we were worried about at the head of the field on that first lap.
It absolutely was. It narrows up significantly through turn 1. It's very, very tight on the exit on a hugely fast approach. Even from that standing start, there's 2 more cars trying to, that needs the escape road in turn 1. So if you find that road blocked, you can get down an escape road, but it's a very tight hairpin turn to get back and rejoin the racetrack. But at the very front of the field, the prototypes are made it through nicely, but that battle among the GTs, kind of we knew it was going to happen. The BMW seemed to have somehow scraped through it. The Corvettes got together, and Wolf Hensley was diving down the inside. I don't think that was Wolf's fault.
He looked down the inside, but he's going to get squeezed. There he is, he's got through it. The 3rd position, I think, looks like the 37, which is the Alvin and the Chipmunks Chipwreck sponsored car this weekend, the Intersport PC car. That looks like may have some damage on the right, the left rear rather. NFA, no further action, to use the police term, on that first corner incident. Concern there from Tom Milner on the left-hand side. Now watch the Falcon car coming from a long way back, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's the turquoise car that, on the inside
nice
of the Porsche. He snaps it under braking there, but you know, it's just kind of one of those things that's going to happen on this side of the race. I feel really bad there for that car number 4. It's so unlucky to be. Let's on board with number 3 Corvette, and look at there. The number 4 car goes to the outside. It's 3 wide here. Did he get 3 into 1 doesn't go, basically.
Did he get pinched by his teammate before Wolf on the inside in the Porsche? Let's have a look. Oh, he got hit from behind by the ESM Ferrari before there was contact with the Porsche. Looking down from the Michelin aerial camera there. Look at that. Ah, yes, that's what it'll look like tomorrow when everyone's back on their way to work. Now, this is on the 77 Magnus Racing Porsche. Watch the carnage appear in front of him, and really all he's got. He's got caught in the back of the Green Hornet racing car there.
Kind of the nature of the beast. I mean, that's a very tight corner down there. You're approaching it super fast speeds, even from that rolling start. I mean, you know, they're probably doing now, I would say 160 miles an hour by the time they get down there. Hard on the brakes, it's bumpy down there, it's rough. You're trying to make a move, you're trying to be patient, you're just trying to get through there. And you knew there was going to be some kind of contact, but I certainly feel really bad there for Jan Magnussen. It was at the wheel of the car number 4, Corvette number 4.
Yeah, he's dropped well down the field in the GT category. But let's tell you what we do know about the front of the field, and that is that Chris Dyson, the pole sitter, was well out ahead of all of that, and he leads now by something like a second and a half, a little bit more, 3 seconds from Hamid Al Masoud in second place. Gonzalez in the 06 Court car is in third place, ahead of Eric Lux and Tommy Dreesy, line astern there as they go through turn number 1. The GT leader on board with the 55 BMW, that's Dirk Werner, who did quite well out of all of that because it was happening behind him, and problems for Pat Long, starting at the back of the grid in the 45 Flying Lizard. Now, is this a puncture? Has there been contact? Will I run out of question marks if I keep asking those questions? Ooh, that looks like he's got air in all of the tyres. We'll find out what the problem with the 45 Flying Lizard is when we come back to the Baltimore Grand Prix here on ESPN 3. Chris Dyson, the leader, just going back through the chicane over the railway tracks. A little Mazda ahead of, I suppose you would call Hamid Al Masoud a teammate, Jeremy. It's run out of the same stable, that Oryx car. There is the problematical Porsche. Well, he's been very considerate and put his four-way flashes on, but I don't see that is... we're hearing on the radio that it's possibly a drive shaft. That's disastrous.
Do you think possibly it's something in the drivetrain? Can we hear anything amiss in that car? As you could say, John, you could, the
something
tyres
slipping.
Have air. Yes, it's a clutch or something like that, I think.
All the tyres have air in them. Pat Long is doing a stellar job of keeping off the racing line. I suppose when you've been complaining about people who didn't do that, you've got to make sure that you're absolutely... He's having trouble steering that. I think drive shaft is a pretty good shout on that. You could clearly hear from the onboard camera that something was spinning up, and it has been a wretched season for the Lizards. Meanwhile, at the head of the GT field, here's Dirk Werner, who's got very close competition now from Olivier Beretta in the number 3 GM Chevy Corvette, and Wolf Hensler, who came out of that little problem at turn 1 pretty much unscathed in the turquoise and blue Falcon tyres Porsche, and we've seen that car really have a good turn of speed this weekend, Jeremy.
Well, all season long. I mean, that car has been taken over this season by Derek Walker's team, a long time in Jap car and IndyCar, of course, and a lot of experienced people on that car, plus several people that worked on it when it was at Landmark Motorsports for the last couple of years, but they've really stepped up the program this year. John Ward, the engineer, remains with it. He knows now about how to set up a Porsche, and the Falcon tyres, they've just made massive gains over the last 12 months or so, and that car is regularly competitive.
There is the Flying Lizard, Pat Long getting a little bit of fuel. Let's find out what's wrong.
45 Flying Lizard Motorsports Porsche has approached pit lane. They went ahead, get a splash of fuel. Team's telling me it's a possible drive shaft failure. They're going to have to take the wheels off and dive into the problem, so I'll keep you posted. But right now, this is definitely not what the Lizards wanted to see.
Oh, that looks very, very nasty. There was a bit of play on that, yeah, and you can see there's a play on that hub there, and that drive shaft was what that mechanic said. And that is not going to be an easy fix, and that will take them out of the running. Now there is the Aston Martin, the Muscle Milk Lola. This is the first time we've seen this car get beyond turn 3 this weekend. Yes, really huge problem. There's another problem for the number 3 GM Chevy car. That is the 3 car of Olivier Beretta, was in second place, and he's lost places there, Jeremy.
Yeah, what a disaster for Corvette Racing. So we'll look, see what happened here on the replay.
Coming into turn 5.
He's just got it locked up.
Oh, dear me. He's done a cracking job there, has Olivier Beretta, to not hit anything.
I tell you what, not many people could do what he did there and not hit anything. Just like he got on the brakes, maybe a little bit late, perhaps caught off guard a little bit by the BMW braking a little sooner than he anticipated, but he got on the brakes hard and he locked it up under braking. And you know, there's certainly some skill involved there in not hitting the wall, but there's also a bit of luck involved as well.
I think he went for the parking brake there, didn't need to pull it around. A great bit of driving by Beretta. It's Dyson that leads from the second Dyson car by 5 seconds. There are your class leaders here at Baltimore.
ESPN on ABC coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by Forza Motorsport, the official racing game partner of the American Le Mans Series. And by Porsche, there is no substitute.
Well, the view from the Michelin aerial camera is outstanding. And here is the secondary challenge that we have, not just at the front of the field, but how far and how fast can you go whilst making the least impact on the environment. Clean, fast and efficient is the Michelin Green X Challenge, and each of our competitors this afternoon are scored in these 3 categories. We add up the numbers, and just like in golf, it's the lowest score that wins, and we'll keep you updated with that. At the moment, it's Autocon and their AER engine number 12 car that leads the Michelin Green X Challenge in the prototypes. In front of Jeremy Shaw, a huge crowd.
It's just amazing. I mean, this city has really got behind this event, and it's super to see. Tremendous enthusiasm here.
Well, we saw just before we left you a problem for the Flying Lizards. Let's go down to the pit lane and find out what the ailment was.
Well, I just checked in with the team. They're hard at work on the suspension of the number 45 Flying Lizard Porsche. They've already spent a couple of minutes in pit lane, and they're going to lose about 5 more trying to get this thing fixed. They cannot go back to the paddock because it's a street circuit, so anything that they have on pit lane is what they have to use in order to get this thing fixed, and right now they're working as hard as they can.
And the other side have not been able to move that car because the ALMS paddock is outside the line of the racetrack. They can only work with a small number of mechanics on this. And that's going to take them a little bit longer. Let's have a listen to this. Ooh. You heard that brake there, Jeremy, over the bump at 6.
And even worse, like it happened yards past the entrance to the pit lane, so he did have to crawl 2 miles all the way around. I mean, it's going to put him out of contention in any case, but really that just rubs salt in that wound. And just awful luck for the Flying Lizard Porsche team this year. Their best finish, they had 1 second place finish at Lime Rock. Other than that, they haven't even finished on the podium, which is amazingly unusual for that team.
Head of the GT field, it's BMW versus Porsche, but it's the Falcon Porsche and Wolf Hensler who is taking the battle to the front engine rear wheel drive German car. Now remember, he got bottled up on that first turn crash and lost some ground, but he's really making hay at the moment. Where is Olivier Beretta? Well, the answer was we saw him spinning out at turn number 5 just a few laps ago in the LMPC, the prototype challenge. It is the Gonzalez 06 car. But there is the battle for the... Oh, now there is the Aston Martin Muscle car back up to speed again.
Back up to speed. He got himself up to 9th place after 3 or 4 laps, and then he had 2 laps that were really slow. I don't know why, but he was about 10 seconds off the pace for a couple of laps. Since then, however, he seems to have got back up to speed in that car. He's now, however, stuck in traffic, but it appears that Romain had some kind of a difficulty inside the car. Let's not forget, he'd never even driven the car before he hopped into it for the pace laps this afternoon.
3rd, 4th and 5th, the 3 GT cars ahead of the 6 Aston Martin, BMW, Ferrari.
Yeah, and those 3 GT cars there, led by Joey Hand there in car number 56, they were kind of held up in that first corner shenanigans, and they got bottled up behind a couple of LMPC cars, which is really unfortunate for them. You can see how much ground they have lost to the 2 leading contenders in G. That's the 55 BMW of Dirk Werner and the number 17 Porsche Wolf Hensler. But this is a battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th in GT.
But look how hard it is for the Aston Martin with that big V12 6-litre engine, the Lola prototype, to get by this battle, Jeremy. And closing on them is a very, very annoyed Magnussen. He's closing in on that battle with Magnussen with Beretta, excuse me, who is closing in. So it's Mad Monegasque who is closing in that car. He was in second place just before we took our commercial break, and he managed to avoid what could have been a very big accident coming up to turn number 5. Let's take another look at this, Jeremy.
Yeah, he just got a bit too close, I think, to the BMW going into turn 5, and that's absolutely amazing. There's no way you can do what he did there. Spin, you couldn't do it on purpose, that's for certain. Locked up the front brakes on the Corvette, the rear end came around, and then it's a question of hoping and praying. And he's obviously been a good boy lately as Olivier Beretta, because he got away with that one, and he's back in the fray.
And the slippery surface flag out at that point on the racetrack, well, that was where Pat Long's drive shaft went, so I wonder if there's been a little bit of fluid. The red and yellow stripe flag it means normally that there's some kind of fluid down there in the circuit, but strictly speaking, slippery surface is the correct definition of it. It's normally water or oil. Now, we thought there might have been a little bit of rain in the air earlier on, but that's not the case. Great weather here.
A lot of times what the tire engineers will do is they'll check the track temperature right here on pit lane. However, pit lane here at Baltimore is all in the shade, so the tire engineers are not able to get a proper track reading, so they have to go from the previous experience of nothing but yesterday, really. So it's just throwing darts in the air and hoping for the best. The air temperature right now is only around 84 degrees, though, so it's the same for all the teams, just hoping for the best with the tires.
Great battle thanks Jamie, great battle for the lead in GT, coming round turn number 3 at the hairpin and into what I'm now calling Dixie's Corner. Turn number 4, been a few people made mistakes there over the last couple of days, and Wolf Hensler is looking extremely aggressive with that Falcon Tyres Porsche.
Yeah, Dixie's Corner, because Scott Dixon crashed there in the ISO IndyCar practice yesterday, but you're right, look at Wolf Hensler there in that number 17 Porsche. He is all over the back end of that BMW for the class lead, but this car, as we said a few minutes ago, that Porsche has been running strong all season long. They've been on the podium, or challenging for the podium in just about every race, and then a couple of races to go at Mid-Ohio, it rained towards the end. The Falcon tyres that we knew before, they were magnificent in the rain, and Wolf Hensler showed it. He and Brian Sellers came away with that team and that tyre manufacturer's first ever victory in the American Le Mans Series, and now they're doing it in the dry as well.
Yeah, he passed 12 cars on that one lap. From green to green, and it's a short lap at Mid-Ohio, and I'm telling you that was a pretty banzai lap that he was out on there. Tremendous stuff, and shortly afterwards the race was stopped. So we're watching the battle down Pratt Street, then down to 3, 4, 5 city blocks, turn hard right down through the gearbox, get on the power. Now the next little left-hander at 2 doesn't look too bad, but actually even the GT drivers with their mechanical grip are telling us you can't go flat out through that corner, Jeremy.
No, some of them can't. It is really rough through there just to get the power down. It's getting a little bit better now that more rubber is being laid down on the race surface there, but it's just look at the atmosphere here, look at the crowd, look at the surroundings here. It's a fabulous place.
There's one free seat there just at the back of that on the left. And look, in fact, actually there's a queue, there's a line of people queuing to get in there to take that one free seat that we spotted from the Michelin aerial photography that we're getting here. Fantastic stuff, and everybody that we've met around the streets, whether we've been coming down on the light rail, has been tremendously supportive of this, from the immigration officers when I came in through the airport to everyone we've met on the streets. And I want to say, I know that we're going out on the PA at the moment here as well, and on the local Fox affiliates, AM 1370 WVIE. Hello to Cody, who we met this morning. Don't normally do that, but he's a young man coming to his first sports car race, so I hope he's having a great time here this afternoon. Meantime, this GT battle continues, and Hensler looking again aggressively at the lead BMW. He's not in position there, Jeremy, but he's trying to put a wee bit of pressure on the lead BMW.
Yeah, he's doing everything he can here, Wolf. He's got him also almost alongside on a couple of occasions, not quite been there to make a pass. And in the past, perhaps we've seen that Falcon Tyres Porsche really strong in the opening stages of a stint, but then once it's run for 10 or 15 or 20 laps, the tyres tend to get past their best. But this weekend, or this race so far, The tyres seem to be very, very consistent and clearly very, very fast. Dirk Werner here, the pole sitter, has got his hands full holding off that Porsche.
Yeah, and he's driving defensively, Jeremy.
Got it sideways there too.
Yeah, the BMW is clearly trying very hard indeed. Another lap into the books. We've completed 12 of them round Baltimore, this brand new Grand Prix circuit. Come back and join us for more in a moment's time. Fantastic. That's all I can say. Looking down from the Michelin helicopter to the streets of Baltimore and the inner harbour area of downtown Baltimore here in Maryland. It's John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw for ESPN 3, bringing you once again full live coverage of the American Le Mans Series. We're into round 7. Now, ALMS GT cars have to withstand the shock and wear and tear of racing. Great news for Corvette owners, as program manager Doug Feehan can tell us.
You know, one of the most interesting features of racing in the ALMS GT category is that your cars have to start life as a real production car. Not unlike this chassis you see right here out of our Bowling Green, Kentucky plant. Hydroformed aluminum rails, that's what we have in the race car. Super strong, super stiff, and most of all, super safe. We've proven that on the racetrack.
And here's a problem, and this is a big story because this is the points leader in the LMPC category. Tommy Dreese and the 63 car have gone through. Eric Lux in second place because the 06 car, which was leading, Jeremy, now is that car dead stick there? That's... Oh my goodness me.
It's moving slowly, but that is Ricardo Gonzalez started that car that he will share with Gunnar Jeanette. That was started from the pole. They are the championship leader. They're leading a race in, and there's a problem also for the 52 LMPC car as well, which has also been quick this weekend. So
that's
big
Ken
turnaround.
Dobson. Ken Dobson started that car, the man who is the race instructor at the Sim Raceway Performance Driving Centre in Sonoma.
Has he got something like a drive shaft as well? He's got some kind of motive power. The tyres seem to be okay, but clearly a major problem for Ricardo Gonzalez.
Well, the team looked very, very worried, as you might imagine. Let's check in with the team and find out what the problem is.
Well, initial reports here from the Core Autosport team is that they're having electrical issues with that 06 car. They said it's kind of misfiring. It'll fire, but they're not getting full power. So Ricardo Gonzalez is going to bring that 06 car here into the pits. They're going to examine it and see what they can find out, and we'll keep you posted.
And there are the GT leaders right behind that car as they were getting bottled up through 5 and 6 there. And there is your new leader. Alvin and the Chipmunks have done the job, certainly, as he squeaks out into the lead. That's Tommy Dreese.
Tommy Dreese, he will hand over to Kyle Marcelli later in the race, and those two, they were split up. Tommy Dreese didn't race at Road America. Kyle Marcelli drove for a different team, but the last time they raced together was in Mid-Ohio. And before that, they won the class for the very first win for these two at Mosport. So they are super competitive, these two. And Tommy Dreese, he's been around in sport a long, long time. He's basically makes his career in the movie industry, but he's a heck of a race car driver as well.
Just looking behind, further back down the Pratt Street straight there, I can see the 54.
Well, the 63 car, also the second place car in LMP Challenge, is driven by Eric Lux, and he is the guy who's trying to track down Gunnar Jeanette and Ricardo Gonzalez for championship. That is the Genoa racing car, number 63, Eric Lux at the wheel.
And in practice, well, it wasn't plain sailing for the 63 Genoa Racing Le Mans Prototype Challenge car. A very uncharacteristic error and there's a change to the GT. There's a change to the GT lead as Wolf Hensler leads in the dry at Baltimore, looking forward from the camera of Dirk Werner, and that is a change for the lead there. Cracking bit of driving. He's been worrying the rear bumper of that 55 BMW M3 for some time, but now Hensler is held up in traffic, and the pass was made in turn 1 in traffic, and now he looks like Wolf is having to look through now. Look on the right hand side of the screen, he just comes
Around the
Buffalo Gals
outside.
round the outside.
That's a heck of a move from Wolf Henson there. He just about threads the needle to pull out, but from behind the LMPC.
Look to the left. Look to the left from the onboard camera. Watch for the... There he is. My goodness me, how late was Wolf braking there? That's great stuff. Clearly feels very confident. Porsche, of course, with the engine all the way hanging over the back wheels. Always good on undulating street circuits. The weight transfer, it's about the only time that engine position really helps you when you're looking to get some traction at the back, out of the corners, and weight transfer forward without it locking up the front wheels on the bumps. And now, look, he's got the problem with the 06 car still out there, Jeremy. That Core Motorsport car that was leading the pack, look, is back up to speed. So maybe a quick control-alt-delete for Ricardo Gonzalez, but he has dropped down to 6th position in class and 19th overall.
And that is the two leaders there. They're on the green, white and red car, just being passed by Wolf Henson, the GT leader, 54. That is the class leader also in GT Challenge, and not too far back, just 3 or 4 cars back down the road, is the second place car number 23 of Bill Sweeter of Alex Joe Racing, just coming through the hairpin there at the back of the screen.
Must make mention of the 2 Corvettes. Both had problems early on, but have worked their way up to 4th and 5th. Beretta and Magnussen running together as, dear me, more problems for the Muscle Milk Aston Martin Lola, and they're going to work at the front of the car. That's normally suspension related, but of course they've had no chance, Jeremy, to set this car up. They have literally not turned a lap before the green flag, and it may just be, well, they've still got the anti-roll bar connected. You might want to take that off around here when it's so bumpy. Let's get down to the pits with Jamie and find out.
Well, not only has the team had very little time on the racetrack, this is the first time Romain Dumas has been behind the wheel of the Aston Martin. Everything is new for him, from the controls to the way that the car feels. He said he got up to speed quickly, but now they're struggling with some issues. They believe they might be having some brake problems right now. The team's trying to dive in. They don't believe it's anything electrical, but this poor team, they've been working all night long. They had to replace 400 wires in this car one by one just to get it to the grid today. So they're doing their best just to get it back out there.
Well, he was up to 9th, dropped back down to 19th, and then back to 11th before these problems in GT. Here is the battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. I mentioned the 2 GM Chevy Corvettes, and they're right there with Joey Hahn, Olivier Beretta, Magnussen, and that flying lizard there is Darren Law. Look at the front of the blue shade-banded car. He's been in the wars as well.
He has. But this is a tremendous battle. This is for the Ferrari at the front there. That's out of contention now. But Jan Magnussen is absolutely charging along there in car number 4, the second of the Corvettes. He's come from a long way back, reduced that deficit, and you can see now he's beginning to put some pressure on his teammates, and then that BMW in front of him of Joey Hand.
That's the GT battle. Heading through turn number 4. And the Ferrari is just, I think, a lap down, isn't it? Yes, it is.
They've had some problems.
So it is the BMW, the 2 Corvettes, then the Darren Law Flying Lizard Porsche that are battling for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th in category. And that's the kind of street fight we expect from these street cars. And I'm just wondering if Joey Hand there in the lead BMW is trying to make a little bit of room as he comes through traffic. That's the 66 Spencer Pumpelly TRG car, which was rebuilt over the weekend as well.
Yeah, they got that car up to 5th, 6th place in GT Challenge right now. So they've done well considering how little track time they have had in that car. On board here with the GM Chevy Corvette with Olivier Beretta. He had that spin, but he's been turning some good laps since then. But his teammate Jan Magnussen is right behind him, and he has been about a half a second faster in the best lap time that he has turned so far in this race. But this is a tremendous battle, and that green and black Extreme Speed Motorsport Patron Ferrari just turning into the corner ahead of Joey Hand. Boy, Joey parked it at the apex there, didn't he? Has had some problems early on, and is a lap down now to the GT leaders that are about 15 seconds up the road from this battle for 3rd, as Beretta looks to the inside at the hairpin, not quite close enough.
I've got a feeling as well that Darren Law will be right up the tailpipes of Jan Magnussen, because that Porsche again just looking very, very sweet over the bumps of the Baltimore circuit at the moment. Now they're back onto the newer tarmac. It's pretty smooth round here. as they head through into turn 6, and now they get bumpy again over the light rail tracks. This was tarmac that was only laid on Thursday, and it's been brilliant.
Well, you know, there's a lot of question marks, a lot of raised eyebrows amongst the teams in all of the series racing here this weekend. To lay tarmac that close to a race meeting with these high horsepower cars is generally often a recipe for disaster. But the guys who are putting this race together, Tony Cotman and Martin Thake, they've got a massive amount of experience in putting these street courses together. They've done a wonderful job.
Well, you might have read about the brand new Forza Motorsport 4. It is the official video game of the American Le Mans Series. It's out on the 11th of October, but if you go to forzamotorsport.net and pre-register, you'll get first dibs on the game and beat the lines at your local game store on the 11th of October. www.forzamotorsport.net for the official game of the American Le Mans Series. There are your class leaders. We'll be back with more from Baltimore in a moment. Looking down on the inner harbour from the Michelin aerial camera on a picture-perfect day for racing, for lazing about in boats, to be quite honest, but we're interested in what's going on the streets. And very interesting talking to some of the teams up and down the pit lane. They think they might be able to do it with just one pit stop. Now, how is that decision made? Here's Kelly with Carl Koningstein of Michelin to tell us how.
Racing at a new venue presents a number of unknowns. With no testing here in Baltimore prior to Friday and with limited track time before the race, that means big challenges for Michelin and its technical team leaders. The Michelin engineers know the dimensions of the circuit, the length of the straightaways and pit lane, and they also have historical weather data and the race day forecast and some simulations to project lap times. Carl, what do you expect here this weekend?
Well, Kelly, we have literally 1 million miles of experience at Le Mans, but we're starting from square zero here on Friday at Baltimore. We expect the track to change quite a lot as it rubbers in over the weekend. And for a starting point, we've brought our tire solutions that we used at Long Beach.
Well, if history is any indicator of success, Michelin has won every street race in the history of the American Le Mans Series.
Great battles all the way through the fields. The Tim Pappas 54 Black Swan Racing Porsche is leading the category. Look behind, because that is another great battle in GT, and the black Porsche with the silver stripes on the roof is the second place car, the battery tender Alex Job racing car. We've got 3 of the 4 classes in one shot as they go through turn number 4. That's how tight it is. Chris Dyson leads, but only by 5.3 seconds. Hamid Al Masoud doing great work behind him in the number 20 car.
Stunning job. I mean, absolutely stunning. Hamid Al Masoud doesn't have a heck of a lot of experience in anything. He's been driving Radicals and some GT4 cars in Europe. He's now only done 4 prototype races. Really hasn't had a lot of track time, but the best lap that he has turned in this race is a 1:31.2. That's within half a tenth of a second of Chris Dyson, who's been driving these cars for years. Remarkable.
Let's go down to the pit lane. This is a bit early for a scheduled pit stop, but Jan Magnussen's in the 4 car.
Yes, this is definitely an unscheduled pit stop for the number 4 Corvette. The team tells me from their live telemetry they were able to see that he was losing air in the left rear. They had no choice but to bring him into pit lane, so now they're going to have to play the strategy for the rest of the race.
Well, I wonder if they're rolling the dice here, Jeremy, and that car can go the rest of the distance, 1 hour and 22 minutes.
No, there's no way. They will need quite a bit of caution in order to be able to get to the end of this race. It can perhaps do 1 hour and 8, maybe 10 minutes, but not 1 hour and 22. They're going to need a lot of help to get to the end of this race without another pit stop.
Well, let's see how it plays out for him. He'd just gone by Joey Hand, as has his teammate Olivier Beretta. So Beretta, after all those troubles, we had them up to 3rd and 4th. Hand had dropped down to 5th. Obviously the 56 BMW now is back up into 4th with that pit stop.
It's true. Joey Hand's been struggling a little bit this weekend. He wasn't as quick as his teammate Dirk Werner in qualifying, and Joey's been super fast all season long, and he loves this racetrack, but for some reason he doesn't seem to have quite got to grips with it, or he's not quite as happy with the handling of that number 56 BMW as he normally is. And his best lap in this race is about a second slower than the class leaders in GT, and here is that GDC battle.
Fantastic stuff again, and Bill Sweedler really keeping his end up there in the battery tender Alex Job Racing Black 23 Porsche. This is the challenge category we're talking about. Black Swan have been pretty impressive at the start of the season, but it's been the racers group who've come on strong in the middle part of the American Le Mans Series, yeah. And now it looks like Black Swan again at the head of the field, making the most of the problems that we saw earlier on with that 66 car taking a big hit right here on Friday practice.
And those GTC Challenge Porsches, they look very similar to the cars that are running in the GT category, but they're not quite as sophisticated. The engines aren't quite as powerful either. And these are much more based on some kind of usual, regular production cars than are the GT cars, which are much more sophisticated. But the third place in that class is Mark Bunting in the 68 car. This is a 66 car, but he's a local man. Is Mark Bunting from Baltimore, running third in class at the moment.
Yeah, that 66 car's worked his way up to 6th position, and this is why he's so far back. Duncan Endy driving now. That was his teammate Spencer Pumpelly, who backed the car into the wall with some ferocity on Friday. It was Duncan at the wheel, was it? Okay. Let's pick up some more on this car down in the pit lane.
Well, and the team told me before the start of this race, they said, look, these first 10 laps will be the most crucial. That's when we'll really find out if there's any major issues with the car. We have to bring it in. We haven't seen them come in yet, so they must be okay. I also talked to Duncan and asked him about getting back behind and driving this circuit after having a significant wreck like that. He was pretty bruised after the incident, and he said when he went back and looked at the data, he knows exactly why he went off. He said it'd be different if I looked and I had no clue and I'd be afraid I would replicate it, but he said I know exactly what I did and I won't do it again.
Thanks, Kelly. Now on board with the Magnus Racing Porsche. That is in 4th position in class. Duncan Endy hasn't been able to really make any progress from 6th position in the GTC, but he's got Peter Lasafra ahead of him. Then this 77 car coming through the light rail tracks at the moment through turn number 7 and onto the pit straight, not the start-finish straight. Timing and scoring is on Pratt Street, half a lap away from where we are now. Love this next sequence of corners under the Sunoco Bridge, heading up towards turn at number 9, brake on the diagonal, get down the gear and then hard on the throttle early because you can use all of the exits where the wall has been pushed back, and now up through the gears towards 10 and 11. It's a very fast S's down here before you have to brake. Be careful because there's a camber change there which caught out Duncan Endy on the Pratt Street. Watch the change from tarmac to concrete and now through the chicane. Get your car lined up before you head across the railway tracks. More from the pit lane now.
Magnus Racing certainly has been looking forward to getting here to the streets of Baltimore, but in particular Craig Stanton. Craig's been called the fittest man in motorsports, and he took the opportunity yesterday to get a little bit of extra track time, though, of a different variety. He ran a 5K around the track circuit. He said running around the track helps him see all of the bumps in here and there that he might not see behind the wheel of a race car, but nonetheless, he said he's prepared to get behind the wheel.
Now, Porsches never look second-hand. That is just pre-owned. I promise you. There's a little bit of damage on the rig. I think that most cars will look like they've been used a little bit. Back up to the head of the GTC field, which is the 54 of Tim Pappas, just getting passed by the Paul Miller Racing Porsche and one of the ESM Ferraris. Now, Bill Sweetler's dropped way back from the lead of that group. And we hear he's had a little bit of a rotation, and in fact he's dropping back just a little bit into the clutches of Mark Bunting in the 68 car. You can just see the blue car in the shot behind, and he may have to just get himself settled down. Don't want to make another mistake right now.
I was just listening to the team communication with Bill Sweetler, and they told Bill, they said, you have 10 seconds ahead of P3. Right now it's a 2-horse race. It's just you and the number 54 car. Keep your head in this game. Stay level-headed. You've got it.
And Bill Sweetley, he had set the fastest lap in the class, closing up onto the tail of that Black Swan Racing Porsche in this car, the number 23 car for Alex Job Racing. But that spin certainly has cost him quite a bit of ground. You can see there that blue and a little bit of black and yellow being passed by the prototype coming into the hairpin. That, the Porsche there, is the third place cars in GT Challenge. Mark Bunting, a former winner, former champion in the Rolex GT series. So he's had a lot of success in the past, driving primarily with TRG, the racers group, Kevin Buckler's organisation, and he's loving being involved in this party atmosphere here in his hometown.
It's not to like, to be quite honest. Turn number 3 in the Aston, still making progress back out after its problem earlier on. It's Klaus Graf now behind the wheel according to our timing and scoring, so a very short opening stint from Romain Dumas. So Romain Dumas is turn number 5. There is the Magnus car that we were on board with just a little bit earlier on. Hamid Al Masood at the head of the field got within about 1.5 seconds of the leader Chris Dyson. It's just nipped back out to 3 seconds.
And that's primarily because Chris Dyson just set the fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 30.4, because Hamid had just turned some very, very good laps and continuing to do so. Actually, his last lap around was a 31.2, which is within a gnat's whisker of the best lap that he had turned so far.
Battle for the lead right in the middle of the screen there in the LMPC category, with the leader in GT and the second place in GT coming as well. The red, white and black 37 is Tommy Dreesy, and he is...
I think that must be the lap car. I think it must be Chapman Jacoby in that Intersport car. I think it's the other Intersport car that's right ahead of Nicolosi right there. But
oh, is there a bit of tactics being played there then, Jeremy?
Maybe.
But that is certainly the battle for the GT lead.
It is, and how Werner has closed in again, because Wolf Henschel pulled out a little bit of a margin, but now, as you can see, Dirk Werner has closed that right down again.
This is traffic, this is multi-class sports car racing, and it hasn't ever been thus, quite frankly, Jeremy. It does seem that when Wolf gets a bit of clear ground, he can maybe clear off 2.5 seconds. And they're going to have to deal with traffic for all of the remaining, 1 hour and 15 minutes. Just a little date for your diary. The good news is for ALMS followers that Motorsports on Main returns to downtown Greenville, South Carolina on Thursday, September the 22nd, as the 55 comes into the pit lane. It's completely free and family friendly. And if you want more details, go to michelinalley.com. I was there last year and I can tell you it was absolutely outstanding. Great venue and quite a lot of LMS teams, cars and drivers. If you want to get close to it, it's michelinalley.com for Motorsports on Main 2011. 55 into the pit lane. And this looks like it's a driver change, Jeremy.
Yep, indeed, and I guess this is a schedule. So I was just about to say that within the next 5 minutes or so, we expect to see some of the GT and maybe LMPC cars onto pit lane.
The 55 BMW coming in to make its pit stop and driver change. They wasted no time as soon as they hit that 45-minute mark, which is the minimum drive time. They brought it in, so Bill Oberlin is now out of pit lane. He's now the driver of the 55.
That was a very, very good stop indeed again by the RLM. And full course caution has just come out as the BMW gets out of the pit lane. How lucky is that? That could be a race changer, as Dennis Paul has the double yellows out over the start-finish line on Pratt Street. The safety car, the Panamera, which is stationed at turn number 5. There's a nice little spot just behind the wall for it there. He'll be popping out in a moment and he'll pick up Chris Dyson in the 16 car. Now, who has gone missing? This might well be the 52. Oh, and what's happened is one of the manhole covers on the exit of turn number 9 has been pulled out by the car. One of the cars, they've been welded down around the circuit. So we need to do a little bit of remedial work there. That will take some time, so we'll take a short break. There are your leaders. And the American Le Mans Series Baltimore Grand Prix has 1 hour and 12 minutes still to run. Looking down on Camden Yards from the helicopter, the Michelin aerial camera, And let's take a look at how things stand at the moment in the Green X Challenge. Remember, clean, fast and efficient adds up to better racing for the planet at the moment. The number 6 Muscle Milk Aston Martin has the lowest score, 25.062, ahead of Dyson Racing 16 and 12 Autocon in the prototype category. And this does matter, not just for the planet, but remember, the winner, the overall winner at the end of the year, gets an automatic invite to Le Mans. In GT, it's Corvette, but not by much, over the 56 BMW. Now, there's no racing on the circuit at the moment. We're behind the safety car. The Porsche Panamera is heading the field, and everyone has fallen in behind it. And this is why, out on the circuit, we've had some problems, and there, the intervention vehicle, the Porsche Cayenne, and normally there would be a little screw-in and welded down cover on that hole.
Yeah, it'll have been welded down there, but these downforce cars particularly, they really do suck the cars out and onto the road, and therefore suck up whatever is underneath it as well. You could see there that it was pulled up by the leading car, run over by the second one, and just missed by Wolf Hensler.
Yeah, and that was the Dakota LMP car, that LMPC car that pulled it up. That can be put back in pretty quickly.
It's a huge amount of suction that the cars create as they go over there, and they've just broken that weld, and off it comes. This is going to be, they're going to have to fix that. There's no question about it. It's going to take a little while to get this race back underway.
Now, who is this good news for? Well,
number 55 car.
And also, interestingly, the Corvettes, and particularly Magnussen, who stopped earlier. Now, he will have to come in and do a driver change, but it does mean at least they can get that out of the way without losing any further track position, Jeremy. And they sneak a little bit more fuel. Now, they can go to the end from here, clearly, and they won't have to put as much fuel in as everybody else.
But the number 55 car, the BMW with Bill Oberlin just taken over the Wheeler car, this is going to be a fairly lengthy caution, and when the other guy, he doesn't therefore need to make another pit stop, so he can stay out on the racetrack. All the other GT contenders are going to have to come into the pits, and then it's going to be a question of how many cars there are between Bill Oberlin and the other cars after they make their pit stops when we go back to green. And I fancy there's going to be quite a few cars in between. Now it's going to give a very useful buffer to Bill Oberlin.
And Wolf Hensler will be cursing his luck. The Porsche goes a little bit better on fuel than some of the other cars, but in this case it hasn't really worked for him. Now, street courses pose all kinds of unique challenges to drivers and engineers alike, but the first race at any new value can be technically difficult. Tommy Sadler, the crew chief of the 45, Pat Long and Thomas Blam tell us how.
In general, the Porsche is pretty good on street courses. We have to develop a setup, which we get from specific data that we can get from the promoters. We can get a track map that's an engineering drawing, so we know how long the straightaways are going to be. We know the radius of each corner, so we can calculate gear ratios. We have to do some work with the brakes and make sure we have adequate braking, which goes back to straightaway lengths, how much cooling is going to be there for sure. We have to go out and walk the track. Engineers will go out, the drivers will go out. We'll see if there's going to be some problem areas.
The conditions are changing all during the week, so we're all learning the track together. That's a good thing. It's an equalizer. There's not some drivers or some teams that have a baseline setup or knowledge of the track.
It's a little tough because it is a new circuit, but for the most part, it's more dictated by length of track, how easily you can pass somebody, and then the length of the race.
I think it's fun. It's sort of that scenario where you've gone to a big hotel suite with all your buddies and you're just sort of opening up doors and checking out what's around the corner. We're all comparing notes. I look forward to it.
Not been a good day for Pat Long, but he is back out there now, as you can see from our onboard camera. Left rear drive shaft or some kind of drive line problem, and the guys at Flying Lizard have turned that round superbly well. But of course he's dropped a lot of positions, now down to 11th place in the GT category.
Yeah, I think he's 15 laps behind, so that is that's a long way. There's no way he's going to make up that ground, but as you said, remarkable work there by Flying Lizards to get that car back out into this race.
Now, we put the screens up because it frankly is a little bit too disturbing to see any welding being done. We're only joking, of course, it's a safety issue, but well done by the guys to get on course. And Again, this is a brand new street circuit, first time it's happened. I will not hear any criticism from anybody because this weekend has been outstanding. These teething troubles are bound to happen, and great that they've got somebody right there on site that can put that right. Meantime, Bill Oberlin, ho-hum, happy days for the 55 car again. Pole position finally for this car when their teammates been going so well, and the bad luck that they've had all season has maybe turned around a little bit.
You see that slogan on the back of the cockpit there, get well Scott R. Scott Remke, the general manager at Team Rahal Letterman Racing, Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, I should say, forgive me. Scott's been had some health issues recently, but Bill Oberlin and the whole rest of the team wish him well and be back in the fray as soon as possible.
Bill Oberlin is
out on the track. There's some. You see some cars being waved through now, passing the pace car and then pulling around to the back of the field, and that's one of the things the American Le Mans Series instituted over the last year or so. When we get a full course caution, it tends to mess up the field, and some of the cars that are just been lapped by the leader, but in the class they try not to mess up the class battles that are going along as well. So that's why there's a slight readjustment of the field right now as we look at how those manhole covers are welded down on this racetrack.
Now the pits have been opened after the pass by, as Jeremy explained, in multi-class racing there's going to be winners and losers, but it's to try and negate the worst effects of that the guys who are behind the leader but in front of their class leader go through so they don't go a lap down. Prototypes first get the first bite of the cherry as far as heading into the Camden Yards pit lane, and they'll be the first to receive service, and the leader of the race, Chris Dyson, will be the first one to get the opportunity. He's already loosening his straps as he comes through turn number 5. He'll peel off right into the pit lane, as will Humaid Al-Maseed, and they'll be replaced respectively by 2003 Le Mans winner Chris Dyson and Stephen Kane, who was what did I say?
You said Chris Dyson.
Yeah, Chris Dyson replacing himself. That would be very good, wouldn't it? There are the leaders coming in. Guy Smith will get in the 16 car, and it will be Stephen Kane getting in the 20 car. Thank you, Jeremy. I'm going senile.
Yeah, aren't we all? Then that was Tommy Dreesy behind them as well, the LMPC leader.
Tommy Dreesy's already climbed out of the number 37 machine. Kyle Marcelli getting behind the wheel right now. Fuel still going in, but what you don't see over the wall, you don't see a new set of Michelin tires. This will be a fuel and driver change only. They're hoping to play their cards right and get to the top of the podium overall. Kelly?
We've got both these G-Oil Mazdas in here from Dyson Racing, and the 16, Guy Smith will now take over driving duties from Chris Dyson. Behind him, we saw Stephen Kane get in for Humaid Al-Maseed. Stephen Kane, his first time on a street course, but he picked it up pretty quickly. Word from this team right now as we see the 16 having trouble firing, but they said they would be good to go on fuel, and now the 20's trying to get out behind the 16. They don't have enough room, and the 16 cannot get this thing fired. So Guy Smith still trying. Even the 37 goes by now. That's for the overall. That's the overall 1 and 2 have already left pit lane. And now we're waiting on this 16 to see what will happen.
Switching starters. 20 starter, open the door.
Now you can hear the team talking to Guy Smith there saying switch the starters. A lot of these cars have double starter motors. Endurance racing, you try to have as much redundancy as you possibly can, and that's been done. And look at the disappointment on the face of that team. The good news is that they've lost some track position, Jeremy, but they certainly haven't dropped off the lead lap. But even better news for us here at the track and all the spectators, the thousands of spectators trackside, is we get to see Guy Smith in full attack mode, trying to chase down our new race leader, effective race leader, who is the number 20 car. At the moment, Wolf Hensler leads in the 17, but that's because the GT cars haven't pitted. So if you're watching timing and scoring at home on the computers or on the screens around the circuit, next time by, Wolf Hensler will bring this 17 car into the pit lane, as will Joey Hand, as will Darren Law, but Bill Oberlin, of course, doesn't need to. So the 4th place car will stay out, and that means he will get a phenomenal run to the flag. So the GT cars about to come into the pit lane. And I would think Wolf Hensler will be cursing his luck here, Jeremy, because he'd done a pretty good job at the front of the field.
The good news for him is that if a good stop here by the Falcon team, we'll still get him out in second place, behind, in the class at least, behind Bill Oblin. And we saw the pace, or get Brian Sellers, who will take over the wheel of that car, back out in second place. So, you know, we've seen how fast that car is, and Brian Sellers is no mean peddler, and we'll see what he can do when he gets back at the wheel of that car. Here's another pit stop in the BMW camp.
Number 17, Team Falcon Tire on pit road. Wolf Hensler brought the car to a stop. Brian Sellers already behind the wheel. A very quick stop in his 4 tires and fuel. Kelly?
We just saw Joey Hand climb out of the 56 BMW. That means Dirk Mueller will take over driving duties. We see them getting 4 new sticker Dunlop tires to finish out this race. Everything going smoothly here, and he's off and out on pit road.
Number 44, Flying Lizard Motorsports, also on pit road right now. Seth Nyman has climbed behind the wheel, having trouble getting the car fired, but there's a substantial amount of damage on the front of that Porsche. He got it underway.
Yeah, that damage was earlier on. We saw that almost right from the beginning. I would wager that may have even been as early as the first corner.
Yeah, could well have been, but certainly it was a tremendous opening stint there by Darren Law in that number 44 Flying Lizard car. He was turning some very good lap times, and he was, you know, harrying the tail there of the Porsches and of the BMWs and the Corvettes. So it was a great opening stint by Darren Law, and it's now the team owner Seth Nyman who will take over the wheel of car number 44.
Right, we'll give them a lap or so to come round and sort themselves out, but we will have a GT car leading this race, because Bill Oberlin, by my reckoning, will be leading in the 55 BMW, even though he was behind, of course, because he hasn't had to stop. So that's the way it's going to work. Now, normally the American Le Mans Series travels with its own support series, but this weekend we don't have it, so let's look back to the Cooper Tires prototype lights. It was Antonio Downs in the blue and white car who took the start from pole position and pulled away from the pack. Early on in the race, a big crash for the 79 of Lucas Downs at the carousel. His car was second hand, he was fine. And John Brownson, the veteran, came through in the 34 to take the checkered flag. In race 2, once again, it was Antonio Downs, and this time Charlie Shears in the 21 car just got the better of him, and he came through to take the checkered flag in the second race. Here's confirmation of all the results from Road America, and we'll be back with more action from Baltimore after this break.
ESPN on ABC coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by Chevrolet and America's premier sports car, Corvette. By Michelin, a better way forward. And by Forza Motorsport, the official racing game partner of the American Le Mans Series.
Well, Eddie, vantage point is a good vantage point when all of the grandstand seats are sold out, and they are here at Baltimore, and literally every balcony that can see any part of the track has got people on them. Look at the buildings in the background from our Michelin aerial camera. We're under our first full course caution, and it's worked out rather nicely. 55 BMW as he goes around the corner at 3 there. Now, we talked about motorsport on Main Street, Greenville earlier. Here's more from Jamie.
Last year, I was lucky enough to be able to go to Motorsports on Main in Greenville, South Carolina. Sylvia Mamoni, Michelin puts on this event. Tell us, what can we expect from this year? There were thousands of people there last year.
There were. Motorsports on Main is a fun event for the entire family to come out and see these cars and the stars of the American Le Mans Series. It's going to happen on Thursday, September 22nd in Greenville, South Carolina. To get more news or to get more information about it, you can visit the MichelinAlley.com website. But you can expect to see the same cars you're seeing here today, as well as all the sponsors and the event promoters, and of course our teams and drivers.
What a great way to lead into Petit Le Mans. Again, it's a fantastic event. Thank you, Sylvia.
You're welcome.
So Sylvia Mamoni has given you all an invitation. There's no reason for you not to go. I was there last year as well, September 22nd. Now, our Chief Marshal this weekend is a man who has made his name in another form of motorsport, another form of sport rather. He was down on the grid with Kelly a little bit earlier on.
Michael Phelps is a 14-time Olympic gold medalist, a native here of Baltimore, and the Grand Marshal for today's event. Now, Michael, this is the inaugural Grand Prix of Baltimore, and the first time you've been to an auto race. So far, what do you think?
This is cool. Being able to see all these cars and being able to actually just get in a car. I couldn't fit, but you know, I think it's cool that we're able to have this event. A lot of people came out, and it's going to be an exciting race.
Yeah, this team has a rich history in sports, not necessarily auto sports though, so how do you think they're sort of embracing this event?
I mean, I think we all love it. You know, this is fun. This is, you know, something that's extremely exciting, and you know, like I said, something we're looking forward to.
All right, well, enjoy the race. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Just about 51 minutes to go, so it's time to have a look at our Forza Motorsport 4 mid-race recap. Just the one caution, we're still on it at the moment. There's been just one change in the Le Mans Prototype Challenge, but my goodness, how important is that for the championship with the 06 car dropping down the field? 2 overall lead changes, and here's a story as well with the 55 GT car leading the field, and of course its own category where there have also been 3 GT lead changes. That's the headlines for you on the Forza Motorsport 4 mid-race recap. Remember, the official game of the American Le Mans Series available on the 11th of October, but if you go to forzamotorsport.net, you'll be able to pre-register and beat the crowds. Coming in green, Jeremy.
Yeah, what did we talk about at the beginning of the show? The fact that it might be possible for something other than an LMP1 car to win this race overall. It's becoming more possible now because we've got 51 minutes to go, and I think the P1 cars are going to have to make one more pit stop. The LMPC cars not, I believe.
And none of the GTs, I wouldn't have thought as well, Jeremy. I think that yellow flag fell well for them. Single file restart through the chicane on Pratt Street as the BMW makes a decent start. Let's head back down to the pits for some more news with Kelly.
Well, and behind them, you'll see that number 20 Oryx Dyson Mazda. When I talked to Stephen Kane before the race, he said one of the biggest challenges would be passing here, not just because of the layout of this track, but because we've never seen the times between the different classes so close. He said, look, it might take me 2 laps to make a pass around a GT car that at other tracks would only take me about 2 corners.
That's a good point, and don't forget, they're not going to have to move over because these are battling for overall positions. It's up to the drivers of the GT cars, Jeremy, to decide whether they want to give way. Now, they might think that discretion is the better part of valour because they're thinking about class rather than overall victories. Oh no, Bill Oberlin decides to take the racing line there away from Stephen Kane, the Northern Irishman in the Oryx Dyson Racing Mazda, but there's absolutely no necessity for the BMW here to give way to that prototype. I think he'll get out-dragged here, and he does.
Yeah, he does indeed, but interesting on that first lap after the green that the BMW there was sliding around quite a lot. The Corvette behind him looks much more planted. I think the Michelin tyres on that Corvette really get up to temperature a little bit quicker than do the Dunlops on that BMW. This is going to be a fascinating battle, certainly for the next few laps, and I believe all the way to the checkered flag. And there, in 4th place in that line, is Kyle Marcelli, taking over the LMPC class leader, car number 37. He's looking good to win this race overall if he can get past these 2 GT contenders.
Well, we've always known that the front tyres in particular on the BMWs take a wee bit longer to come up. The BMWs are very light on their front, but I think that's a cracking spot there. Marcelli in the 37, the Alvin and the Chickmont sponsored car, looks in very good position, and not because of where he is right now, but potentially how things can shake out in the next 25 minutes or half an hour, because he's good to the end of the race from here, Jeremy. He does not have to stop again. And I've got a feeling that if we do the arithmetic, Stephen Kane and indeed Guy Smith in the 16 car fighting his way through the traffic at the moment, and he's up to 7th position, by the way, having dropped back after the car was somewhat recalcitrant on restart. Both of those guys, I think, will have to come down the pit lane, if not for a full service, something close to it.
No, it'll be really just a splash. They'll need about probably 10 or 15 minutes worth of fuel, which is about 20% of a tank perhaps. So it'll certainly be it'll be a probably a race-losing event for the LMP1 cars, but we'll have to wait and see. If there's any more cautions, if there are any more full course cautions in this race, then it could come back in favour on the LMP1 cars. There's still 51 minutes to go in this race.
This has been a stop and go penalty for the 89, speeding in pit lane when he came in under the yellow flag a moment ago. And I've got to say that the 01 ESM car, we've got full course caution again. The pits have been closed. I was expect to see the 01 ESM car in as well, because they had too many men working on the car. And before that, they didn't come back into the pit lane from the emergency service. And it is the number 12 Autocon car, the name Silo sponsored machine. Now this car with Tony Burgess driving his third in the LMP1 category, and he has managed to get the car in a position unusually on this circuit where he can't get the car refired. He's coming down to the exit of the pits. This is turn number 8. And just lock the back wheels up there.
Just lock the back wheels up there. I think, it probably wasn't completely up to temperature, those tyres on that car, and he got on the brakes a little bit too hard, got a bit enthusiastic trying to pass those slower cars down there. That's a great shame for this Autocon team, because that car was running in third place. It was a good opening stint by Chris McMurray. He handed the car over, third place in the class. Well, there's only 3 cars still running. Well, the Aston Martin is still running, but it's 6 laps behind everybody else. So he was looking good for a podium finish, but this is going to cost him quite a lot of ground, and I think at least a lap to the other contenders.
From the pit lane, we're hearing that the 16 and the 20 car are good through to the end of the race on fuel. I think they're rolling the dice a tiny bit there.
Well, this caution will certainly help them a lot, because I think they would have been struggling otherwise to go 51 minutes to go when it went back to green, plus several laps of running around before that under caution. You're not going to use much fuel, certainly behind the safety car, but 51 minutes is pretty marginal for these cars. But this caution, I think, will certainly help them out and might be the game changer.
Question is, Jeremy, at what speed can they get to the end? They might not be able
and make up, stay ahead of the GT cars for certain. I think, maybe, possibly.
Let's get back down to the pit lane. Early leader Wolf Hensler made a fantastic start in the Falcon Porsche.
Wolf Hensler back in pit lane. Wolf, you had an exciting start to the race. You had contact there on the opening lap, but then you got into the lead. What was the action like from your seat?
Yeah, my start was really good, but there was a lot of action going on in turn 1. I saw a gap at the very inside of turn 1, so I dived in, and I thought, oh, that's good. I got by the Corvette, and then all of a sudden the second Corvette came, spun around right in front of me, and I hit him on his door. I couldn't avoid it anymore. I was standing on the brake, locking the wheels. But I was lucky that nothing was damaged on my car, and the car was still good after it. And then I, just got by the Corvette when he spun into turn 5. And then I got lucky with traffic when I got by the BMW. And from then on, our car was really, really good. The tires, the Falcon tires, worked very well. I had a good grip from the beginning to the end, and I could even drive away from the BMW a little bit. And right now we are running third, so let's see where we finish.
All right, Wolf told me right before the interview, he said the traffic out there is awful.
It's not that bad. He was leading the race and doing all right, to be honest. There are your class leaders. The pits are about to open. When we come back, we should be close to the green flag here at Baltimore.
Hi, I'm Vu Nguyen, Executive Director of the 105,000-member Porsche Club of America. We hope you're enjoying the inaugural broadcast of the Baltimore Grand Prix.
We're under our second caution here on the Inner Harbour circuit downtown Baltimore. And we saw the little whoopsie from the 12 Autocon car. The Autocon car spinning, and this is what it looked like. Just watch to the right-hand side from the Black Swan Racing car. Oh my goodness me, how do I avoid him? Oh, I've managed to get past.
Well, that was the GTC leader, of course, that the number 12 car was spinning right in front of. So Jerome Bleekemolen just got into the wheel of that car. Did well to avoid the spinning car, actually.
From the Michelin aerial camera, looking down Now, going back a few years, the last time we were in this area, we were at Washington, D.C. in the grounds of RFK Stadium with the Works Audis and the Champion Audis and the Spirit of America Paynos as well. Tom Christensen getting out front at the start and having a little bit of a coming together with JJ Leto. Emmanuel Pirro battling at the head of the field underneath the underpass, the hairpin. That was a great place to be spectating. I remember very hot and very flat racing. 3 out of the 4 classes in one shot as the lead changes with David Brabham going down the inside to take the lead at that same hairpin. He got out and was very, very tired indeed, as was all the drivers. That meant Jan Magnussen had given up the lead, but a slight mistake by Pirro allowed the gap to be hauled back. And then, well, Mags was off the leash, went past Tom Christensen in the number 2 Audi. A tight run to the flag on the very, very last lap at the end of the 2 hours and 45 minutes timed event. And it would be the Spirit of America, the funky front engine prototype, that won the inaugural and so far only DC American Le Mans Series race. There was great, great joy for everybody at the Paynos pits, including series founder Dr. Dom Paynos. And we've got just the same kind of atmosphere now with a packed set of grandstands here at Baltimore. Let's go down to the pit lane. Joey Hand is ready to talk to us.
Well, after all those pit stops cycled through, the 56 BMW with Joey Hand and Dirk Mueller now sits 4th. Joey, you guys have really been battling out there with the Porsches. How did that first stint sort of meet your expectations?
I was right as I expected. Carnage in turn 1. I just wanted to get this BMW M3 through turn 1, through this stint. I knew that these walls can be harsh, so I wanted to make sure I brought this car in to Dirk, and so he could finish it off. But the car was decent. Like I said, I just took my time, tried to stay off the walls, and bring it in straight.
Thanks, Joey. We're going green.
Single file restarts. Down to turn 1, battle for the GT lead. There's going to be an accident. Oh, could see that coming from 50 yards back. And that was Tom Milner making a very, very dodgy move. At the very least, I think he was being ambitious. And Tom is not indeed himself to a lot of drivers this weekend. Was accused by 1 or 2 of being a bit dozy in the practice session as well. As the 55 is parked up, and Bill Auberlin's car once again has been stranded at the side of the road. They've had no luck this season, and that means Brian Sellers in the 17 car and now driving after Wolf Henser's first stint. The Falcon Tyres Porsche leads GT again. Jeremy.
Yeah, and finally, Bill Auberlin's finally got that car going. He's got an awful lot of ground. He could have fallen right to the back of the field. Let's have a look from on board the number 3 Corvette of Tommy Milner. And you can see he's 5 or 6 car lengths coming into the braking area. He just leaves his braking way too late. You can see that Auberlin, there's a little slight lock up at that right front wheel. He's right on the limit there. And Tommy Milner, I have to say, is over the limit. And that is a surprising error from Tommy Milner. He's a super young man. He won Le Mans this year. Tremendous moment for him. And here's on board Auberlin's car, and around it goes. Boy, what a shame.
17 goes through. Bill Auberlin gets out of the way. He's an old pro, is Bill, and gets into the runoff zone, but then didn't have enough lock to get the car all the way around. Did a pretty good job, in fairness, Auberlin, of getting out of the way of any further damage. Brian Sellers must have thought his birthdays and Christmases had come together. But I'm waiting to hear from and there it is, 60 seconds stop and hold for avoidable contact. That is the standard penalty in the American Le Mans Series. And Tom Milner, remember, it's not about blame here, it's whether it could have been avoided, and that clearly could have. He was coming down the inside. It is more bumpy and there is less grip there, Jeremy, but over-ambitious at the very least there from Tom Milner.
Yeah, he just made a mistake. I mean, the tyres are still cold. When you're running behind the pace car, the tyre temperature, tread temperatures cool off significantly, and there's an optimal working temperature for those tyres, and until they get up to that optimal working temperature, which they only get back to when they're running hard through a few corners, then the car doesn't have as much grip. That's exactly what Tommy Milner experienced when he got down to turn 1, and he really didn't take that into account, and that's why that incident happened.
There is the Graf-driven Aston Martin Lola coming back through the field. Still only 4th, of course, in P1, 26th overall. Got to get to 70% of the race to get the points. Can't decide any of the championships this weekend because of the extra points available at Laguna Seca, which is 4 hours, and Petit Le Mans, which is the 1,000 mile. And we've got the 89 and the 3 in the pit box. Remember, I was trying to tell you about that problem for the 89 earlier on. The 01 still has to come in the penalty box as well. So it is Stephen Kane that leads by 5.6 seconds from the 37 of Kyle Marcelli. And Elton Julian in 3rd place, another 4 seconds behind. There's some quite significant damage, Jeremy, on the hood, the bonnet area of that stationary Tom Milner-driven Corvette.
Indeed, and as we see there, Gunnar Jeanette moving down the inside of one of the GT Challenge cars. Gunnar Jeanette, at the restart, he was 5th place in the class. He was the last car on the lead lap, so he is still on the lead lap with the other contenders in LMP Challenge. So therefore, not out of this race by any means.
Not at all. We've seen all the drama so far, and we've seen enough American Le Mans Series racing, Jeremy and I, to know that it's not over till it's over.
New fastest lap of the race was set by Stephen Kane, the race leader, briefly, because Klaus Graf in that Muscle Lola Aston Martin, he went quicker still. He's many laps down. He's actually only 6 laps down, the number 6 car, in 26th place overall, but he just turned the best lap of the race in 1 minute 30.594. So that just shows, how strong this car could have been if they didn't have that problem yesterday. Didn't do any qualifying, didn't even do the final warm-up practice this morning, so no time at all coming to the race for the Lola Aston Martin. But the car now, with Klaus Graf at the wheel, showing its paces.
And Guy Smith, I was about to say, is up to 4th place. He's now up to 3rd place, and his relentless charge towards the head of the field. He's just about 12 seconds away from Stephen Kane, who Jeremy's just been talking about, in the number 20 car with the black and yellow livery, as Guy Smith comes down towards turn number 3. And Smithy is charging at the moment. I've got a feeling, Jeremy, we're going to have a real fight at the head of the field in 2 or 3 laps' time, because it's not absolutely imperative for the 16 car to win this race, but there's some pride within the team. You always want to beat your teammates, and the 20 car is the new addition to that team since Lime Rock after the Le Mans break.
That's right, number 16 car, Guy Smith and Chris Dyson, and let me correct myself there, because Chris Dyson actually did set the fastest lap of the race thus far, 1 minute 30.454 during his stint before he handed over to Guy Smith. We're watching now Stephen Kane leading the class. They've had a couple of 3rd place finishes. That's the best for him and Humaid Al Massoud in the 4 races they have contested so far. Guy Smith and Chris Dyson lead the points by 18 over Lucas Luhr and Klaus Graf. Lucas Luhr not here this weekend, but Klaus Graf is the Aston Martin of the Muscle Milk team. They've won 4 of the 6 races, but they're still 18 points behind. They had a costly non-finish in the first race of the season at Sebring.
Now, our SCCA top star performer this week is Jeff Kiesel from California, who has been driving his turbo rotary powered Austin Healey Sprite of all things, and he's just pulled a double recently, beating over 260 other drivers to win the season ending Comac Super Challenge at the Tire Rack Pro Solo Finals in Lincoln, and then 5 days later he claimed his 6th solo national championship. Jeff Kiesel from California, a member since 2001. We salute you, our SCCA star performer this week. The Baltimore Grand Prix has 30 minutes still to run. Year of Corvette, Chevrolet rather, Louis Chevrolet, the Swiss national who started the brands. Our Michelin aerial camera looking down on the inner harbour, and the USS Constitution just sitting there in the background, one of the famous old American naval ships. As we pick out the leader, Stephen Kane, Northern Irishman, Autosport Young Driver of the Year, BRDC Young Driver of the Year in 2001.
2001, yeah, and he's just set his fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 30.7. In the meantime, Klaus Graf in that number 6 Lola Aston Martin, he's just turned up on 130.013. So now the Lola Aston Martin is the fastest car on the track, albeit 6 laps down. But yes, there is our overall race leader. A couple of laps cars behind him, and Stephen Kane's pulled out about 10 seconds over Kyle Marcelli, and then Guy Smith in the second of the Dyson Racing Lola Mazdas. He's another couple of seconds behind Kyle Marcelli in the best of the LMPC cars.
Stephen Kane has led ALMS races before, at least one, at Mid-Ohio, and he unfortunately put the car off coming out of the final corner onto the finish straight, and just lost the car actually on a restart on relatively cold Dunlop tyres. And remember, if Dunlop win here today overall, then they break a streak of Michelin's victories in every single one of the street races that the American Le Mans Series have had in the last 13 seasons. The overall victor has been a Michelin tired car. Now, there is Klaus Graf, and my goodness me, Jeremy, you said he's the quickest thing on the circuit at the moment, and he looks it.
Yeah, he was really hustling that car through turn 2. Looked very good indeed. This car has been fast, but it's had its problems.
Well, the issues for the Aston Martin today was not in the electronics, it was in the brakes. They had a brake bleed, a little valve on the brake bleed that went bad on him, so they did spend that extra time in pit lane to get it fixed. But Klaus Graf on the radio to the team said everything is working right now. Now he's turning his fastest laps of the race.
Magnificent stuff to hear the howl of that V12.
Yeah, glorious, and again quicker again last time around, 129.7. So boy, what a battle this could have been at the front of the field, but it's still just great to see this car running. You know, they're coming off, they've had 3 wins in a row, a second place before that, another victory before that, so yeah, they're looking good. They'll be on the podium again, will they? No, they've still got a couple of laps to make up over the number 12 Autocon car, which Tony Burgess has got going again. It is still running fairly well.
Yeah, down in 18th position, they've got 4 laps to make up on them, and I'm not sure they'll be able to do that in the time. But whatever happens today, the championship will not be settled. Remember, 4 hours to come at Laguna Seca, and then 10 hours or 1,000 miles at the season-ending Petit Le Mans, and that means extra points. So whatever happens today, we continue with the fight at the head of the field. Klaus Graf, the man who has done so much with Muscle Milk over the last few years, driving with Greg Pickett, of course, with the team owner previously in the Porsche Spider, and with a variety of teammates this year. Lucas Luhr not here this weekend, and we haven't said this in the race broadcast. He is out on GT1 duty for Nissan at the moment, out in China.
Indeed he is. He would love to have been here, I'm sure, but you know, prior commitments there.
Well, he's leading the championship,
yeah,
isn't he?
well, that's true. He's had a heck of a season, hasn't he? Driving just about anything that he can drive, and doing a fabulous job with everything. But this car, is super to see this car, and we're going to see another of these cars in the last couple of races of the season, because Adrian Fernandez and Harold Premack will be back in a factory Gulf Lowe's-sponsored Lola Aston Martin at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca and Petit Le Mans. Can't wait to see that car.
No, absolutely, and hear it. On board with Dirk Muller, who's coming through turn number 7 onto the Camden Yards pit straight. He's looking down the road to see if he can see the blue back end of Brian Sellers' Porsche. Oh my goodness me! And that is the Dakota 89 car that spun right on the exit of turn number 8, excuse me, and he's had to pull in the wrong way into pit lane. He's been waved out by the pit lane exit marshal and pointed in the right direction, and you know what, that is not as daft as it seems, because when you spin around sometimes you get a little bit disorientated. Pointing him in the right direction.
True, but if he was going to reverse out, don't stop it in the middle of the road. Let's go across the other side of the road before you select first gear. But luckily, he was able to get away with it without causing what would be a very embarrassing incident. Oh, look, here's interesting. There's the Ricci Ferrari at the back of this thing with the Flying Lizard Porsche right in front of him.
Yes, that's the 45 and the 62. Patrick Long was turning some decent laps early on, and it's still Pat Long at the wheel of that car at the moment. I'm surprised they haven't changed drivers as yet, but they are on a different Is it Bergmeister?
Yeah.
Sorry, looking at the wrong screen there. So Bergmeister is at the wheel of that car, and they're in points gathering mode at the moment. 62 car is 5th position.
Yeah.
That's Ferrari in class.
And that's been moving up quite nicely because that car was at the back of that pack not too long ago.
And the darker coloured Porsche ahead of the Lizard is the next car for the Ferrari. That's the Paul Miller Yokohama showed Porsche, and that's got Sasha Massen at the wheel of that, I think, at the moment. In 4th place in class. Saw Sasha yesterday, he's still enjoying it. They haven't had a great season in that car, stepping up from the GTC category last year, but he's still loving being out here. And he was 6th, of course, at Long Beach in that car. So again, proving what we said earlier in the broadcast, Porsches like street circuits.
And the Yokohama tyres are on that car, and the Yokohama 2, they're making good strides to get back toward the front in GT. They were super competitive quite a few years ago. More recently, not so much, but good to see that Yokohama car, the Chopard Watches car, getting back into contention. As you say, 4th place, an excellent run for Bryce Miller and now Sasha Massen.
Yeah, one of the previous Paul Miller Motorsport drivers, Luke Hines, I was talking to last week, and Luke had a bit of a tragic event in his family recently with his father, Martin Hines, the man who they call because it didn't unsettle the car too much across the railway lines, heading down, 3, 4, 5 city blocks, now on the brakes, down 1, 2, 3 gears, down another one before you turn into the apex, and then hard on the right hand pedal to try and find the grip. Different lines being taken by the 2 Porsches there. Interesting to see that Craig Stanton was staying more to the middle of the road, hoping to pick up a little grip where perhaps it wasn't so bumpy, and that seems to have worked as he closes in on the brakes into turn number 3, the hairpin.
Yes, super battle going on here. Looks down to the inside as Craig Stanton. I don't think he's really trying to make a pass there. He's just trying to make Lee Keen look into his mirrors and perhaps make a mistake. Wily old dog is Craig Stanton. Been around the sport a long time. Super fit, probably, well, certainly one of the fittest drivers in the field. And let me tell you, most of these guys are pretty fit. But you know, he's a fitness fanatic. And even though he's pushing on the years just a little bit now, he's not that old, but he is into his 50s, and he's probably the fitness of a 20-year-old, I would say. It's amazing.
He doesn't look it.
No, he does.
That 53
is incredible, yeah.
First thing he does when he comes to a track is starts running round it.
Yeah.
And he'll do an hour, maybe an hour and a half if he can, just running, pounding around the track. A, it keeps him fit. B, it gets him close to the racing surface. Now, danger here for both of those drivers in the Porsche GTC category, as we see the 2nd place car in LMPC, Elton Julian, coming through. And of course, he's trying to chase down Kyle Marcelli at the head of the field. And he is some 37 seconds up the road. And we've also got the GT leader coming up there as well, Brian Sellers, who's been doing a pretty good job, Jeremy. Same sort of lap times as Wolf Hensler.
He's done a fantastic job. He's been quicker than Wolf Hensler, and he's pulling away now. He's got past that Corvette, and he's pulled away a little bit more now from Dirk Müller in the number 56 car. Still only about 5 or 6 second lead. It's not comfortable, but Sellers still hold it. He's doing an excellent job at the wheel of that car, number 17.
Beautiful surroundings here for a motor race, and as I came in this morning, I get the feeling that this is already an established event, despite the fact that it's the first race that has been held here. And certainly the kind of crowd numbers, I think the organisers will be delighted with this. Remember, there is another race here tomorrow. Open wheel racing continues here on this street circuit as the American Le Mans Series race into the sunset hours, with just over 11 minutes still to run. And Brian Sellers has got to keep his head here, Jeremy, because even though he's not passing for position, he's got to keep, really be aware of his surroundings, see what he's coming up to, see what's coming up to pass him.
Yeah, that was Gunnar Jeanette going through there, I think, wasn't it, in 3rd place? No, it wasn't. It was the other car. It was Frankie Montecalvo, who is running 3rd place for Court Autosport in that class. The other Court Autosport car of Gunnar Jeanette has moved up to 4th place ahead of Jarrett Boone in the Performance Technology Motorsports car. So in LMP Challenge, it's the 37 car Kyle Marcelli, who's been significantly quicker than anybody in LMP Challenge this weekend. He's extended a huge margin over the 63 car of Elton Julian. But you know, for Elton Julian and Eric Lux in particular, Eric Lux is a full season driver in the 63 car, and he is trying to track down Gunnar Jeanette and Ricardo Gonzalez for the championship spoils.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it, sometimes how the second drivers are so important in the championship aspirations of the guys at the wheel. So we're on board with the 54. This is the championship leading GTC car. This is the Black Swan Racing, and serene, beautiful, slightly surface flag, but other than that it's all fine. There are your leaders. We have just under 10 minutes to go of the inaugural Baltimore Grand Prix. We're back here at Baltimore as we're inside the last 8 minutes of racing on the Inner Harbour Street Circuit, which has been such a hit with the fans, the teams, the drivers, and us commentators as well. We've thoroughly enjoyed our time here as the race winds down into the last 4 or 5 laps. It's still Stephen Kane leading by just about 11 seconds from his teammate Guy Smith. That's going in and out.
Yeah, well, it's going out right now because the last couple of laps, Stephen Kane has gone quicker and quicker. It's just turned a 1 minute 30.101, and that's about a couple of cents slower than Guy Smith did a little while ago. But over the last few laps, Stephen Kane in car number 20 has extended that lead over his Dyson Racing teammate, car number 16, from 6 seconds to 11 seconds.
On board with the 02 Extreme Speed Ferrari. Notice the paddle shift on this car at the moment. Inside the top 10 for Ed Brown, and this was the first of the 458s to get the paddle shift in the US. The Risi guys saying they won't go to it before the end of the season. They prefer to stick with the tried and tested sequential shift. Got to say, around a street circuit, I would think that it would make a huge difference in terms of ease of driving. Now, the commentators and the whole team talk amongst ourselves between the start and finish of the race to come up with our Michelin Pilot Super Sport. The Michelin Pilot Super Sport move of the race. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Well, this time it's Tommy Milner down the inside on the leading BMW 55. That is our move of the race. And why is that? Because if you look from the onboard of Bill Oberlin's car, there is the 17 car going through into the lead, and believe it or not, that is the 4th time that Wolf Hensler and Brian Sellers in the 17 car have been a part of our Michelin Super Sport move of the race, Jeremy, but we have jinxed them in the past when we put them in there.
Yeah, it's amazing though, 4 times in 7 races. That is quite remarkable.
Shows they're at the sharp end though, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but Sellers, boy, what a job he's doing. He's extended that margin over Dirk Müller to, I think it was about 7 seconds last time around, and Stephen Kane quicker again last time around, a 1 minute 29.900.
This is the best battle on the racetrack. It is for second place in GTC, and it is still raging on. Lee Keane in the 23 battery tenders, William Rast, Alex Job Racing Porsche, the Cup car. These are the same type of cars that run in the Porsche Super Cup, which supports Formula One around the world and in national series right across the globe. Right in behind him, Craig Stanton's got a sniff of second position, and you give Craig Stanton nothing at all. And look, they're being held up by the 44 that had its trials and tribulations earlier on. It bears the scars of battle, and Lee Keane just gives it a little nudge to say, I'm in a fight here, I need to be through.
Excuse me, Seth, I think was the
coming through, excuse me. Craig Stanton must be thinking, oh, I just need just 2 more horsepower. Why couldn't I have 2 more horsepower? I'd be up alongside him. But of course, these cars, exactly the same specification, and this is the joy of this type of racing. If you're watching the onboard cameras as we are, Lee Keane is not brake testing the car behind him with those little taps on the brakes. He's making sure that after he's run over the big slide by Lee Keane onto Pratt Street there, he's making sure that after going over all the bumps that the brake pads are still in contact with the brake discs, the brake rotors, because you do not want to get to a heavy braking zone, push down the middle pedal and find, oh dear, nothing there. It's happened to all of us, Jeremy, hasn't it? So into the right-hander at turn number 1, the race leader is bearing down on them, and this is another real danger time for both of those drivers, because they've got to have their wits about them, Jeremy, as Stephen Kane, with 9.5 seconds lead over Guy Smith, bears down, and again Stanton is very close at the hairpin.
Yeah, it gives him a little bit of a nudge there going into the hairpin. This is a super battle, but Craig Stanton, he's not quite able to get alongside there. Lee Keen, no defensive driving there, just trying to drive that perfect line and make sure that there's no opportunity for Craig Stanton to make a pass.
It's a very good point that he's not going down the inside and trying to make the following car go the long way around. Now here is danger with the leader coming through. Stephen Kane will be being told from his Dyson Oryx pit crew that these guys are battling for position, and in fairness they are all looking in. Oh, and as I say that, across the road and taking the racing line goes Lee Keen, but you can expect him to do that, and fair play to Stephen Kane. He didn't really get amongst that too much and spoil that battle, and in fact, as Kane clears both of those Porsches battling for second position in the GT Challenge, it's pretty much as they were as he drove up to it.
And particularly heads-up driving, I would say, there by Craig Stanton in that number 77 car. He realised that Stephen Kane was alongside him. He would have been frustrated to have the LMP car in between himself and the guy he is chasing down there, but again, discretion, a better part of valour. He just lifted off a little bit, lost a couple of car lengths, but now he's trying hard to hustle that car closer again.
Now the Yokohama tyres that all of the GTC cars run are very, very impressive indeed, but they do react to how hard they've been driven through the race, and if you've looked after them, it can make a big difference in the last 10 miles or so, and we're well inside that at the moment as we hear from race control that next time around Stephen Kane will see the white flag signifying just 2.04 miles of this very exciting circuit still to go.
Yeah, tremendous dice have been all the way down through the field, but Stephen Kane, boy, what a nice job he has done. Again, relatively little experience at the wheel of that number 20 car, but this is the battle. It's been raging all the way for the last 50 minutes or so. Just a car length or two between these two, battling over second place. That big bump there in turn 6.
And you mentioned patience before. Well, Craig Stanton is showing it in spades at the moment. There are many other drivers in other series around the world that might have stuck the nose of that 77 Magnus Racing Porsche down the inside of the battery tenders car, potentially putting them both out of contention. Craig is a little too wily for that. Perhaps a little mistake there from Lee Keen. Did he lose a bit of momentum?
Perhaps so, but there's still that maybe 3 car lengths between those two, and that was the margin that Lee Keen pulled away as Jerome Blakemoller comes through, and Stephen Kane, our race leader, takes the white flag.
Just 2 miles then to go for Stephen Kane, the Northern Irishman. Bit of British touring cars under his belt, British Formula 3. As we're... Wow. Now that's interesting. That's Smithy not getting up the inside of the Porsche there. He seemed to back way off of that so that he wasn't in the way.
That was kind of strange, actually, because it certainly cost... I think it caught Craig Stanton by off guard there, because Craig all of a sudden has lost another 4 or 5 car lengths.
Maybe he just didn't want to put his...
Is he going to repay the favour there for Craig Stanton? Held up Lee Keen a little bit going to that corner.
Now, just a few moments ago, the 55 BMW sitting down in 5th position had more excitement with the 06 and the 62, the 6 and the 62 rather.
That's a battle for position there.
Yes.
Yeah, 55 and the 62 here are on board. We see the Lola Aston Martin go down the inside. On board here with Bill Auberly trying to make a move there. Whoa, yikes. On the Ferrari, he does it. He has to make contact with Lola Aston to do so as well. Boy, that was all very, very tight.
That was for 5th in class, and proving that the mechanical grip advantage that the GT cars meant that he could carry more speed to the corner. Well, Stephen Kane has led the races before. Hamid Al Masoud took a fabulous first stint, but it will be Oryx Dyson Racing who take their first win at the first running of the Baltimore Grand Prix, and there's golf clap from Jeremy Shaw. The celebration a little less muted in the cockpit from Stephen Kane there, as we were giving the the polite golf clap as he crossed the line.
Yeah, that was an excellent driver. Hamid Al Masood really did a fine job. Look, how my hat's off to this guy, Kyle Marcelli. He brings his car third place overall, a magnificent drive. He has the fastest lap in that class by, well over a second, I think. Well, it wasn't until the end. Gunnar Jeanette finally got going a little bit and closed in somewhat, but a magnificent drive for Kyle Marcelli and Tommy Drisi. And there's a 17 car too. Wolf Hensler started that car. Brian Sellers took it over, and it extended his margin over the pursuing BMW.
Yeah, and that makes a huge difference in the categories for teams and tyres in GT category. Brian Sellers, after a fabulous start from Wolf Hensler, kept up the good work. And let's not forget our GTC winner, the 54 Black Swan car. Tim Pappas doing his work at the beginning of the race, and then taken over by Jeroen Blekemolen as Brian Sellers takes the first win for Falken Tyres.
Way to go, Brian. Good job.
First win in the drive for Falken Tyres. They took their first win at Mid-Ohio, and now both of the guys have seen the checkered flag. That's a big party tonight. Well, it may only have been 2 hours, but my goodness me, we packed that 120 minutes absolutely chock full of excitement. The P1 final results with Hamid Al Masood and Stephen Kane winning from their teammates, and the Autocon guys in third position ahead of the Muscle Milk Aston Martin.
Stephen Kane can't wait to celebrate with his teammate Hamid Al Masood. It's only taken 5 races, 5 times behind the wheel of this car, and you're an overall winner in the American Le Mans Series. We heard the cheers over the radio. What does this mean? What does this moment mean to you?
Oh man, I just can't get over it. A bit emotional. It's been a hard ride. It's all down to these boys here. This is Chad. Hello. The top mechanic. There's Will. He's the man. You know, it's a real team effort. You know, Hamid is a very inexperienced driver, and for him to achieve the lap times that he did and put the stint in, you know, on a street track is just, you know, it's unquantifiable how good of his performance was. So for us to get this result, and the team, you know, I have to thank Oryx, Dyson Racing, Mazda, Dunlop Tires, you know, everyone who's involved with the team, just, you know, for giving us a great car. You know, my stint, I think Hamid had a little touch with someone, and there was some problem with the front toe, but we managed to get through it. It was getting worse and worse, and I thought I was going to have to come in at one point, and we had a little bit of an overheating problem, but you know, it all ended up good at the end. So I just can't get over it. It's brilliant.
Congratulations to you, Stephen.
Thank you. Thanks.
Great to see some genuine emotion there from a driver. Now, the final results for GT, and I think we're going to see some emotion here as well with Wolf Hensler and that fabulous start, handing over to Brian Sellers in the 17 Team Falken Tyre Porsche ahead of the 56 BMW. That's the car that's had all the luck this year and the better results. Corvette Racing making it 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 in the GT. And what a result for Paul Miller Racing in 4th position.
Team Falken Tyre claiming their 2nd victory of the season, but Brian Sellers, this one was done in the dry. Did you think 3 years ago that the team would be able to accomplish 2 wins?
No, I didn't. I think it's really unbelievable right now. The team did such a great job. Wolf was incredible as always. It just feels so good to get a win for Team Falken Tyre. They worked so hard, and they've put so much effort into it, and I'm so glad that Wolf and I could be the one to bring them their first win. I got to say this too, one of my good friends, Trevor, just had a baby. Congratulations. But the win is so fantastic. Falken Tyre, unbelievable. I'm so happy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, big smiles from there. They did a great job, absolutely great job. Let's move to the challenge classes, and first of all, the prototype challenge with Tommy Drisi and Kyle Marcelli for Intersport winning. That was a measured race, a great race for them. General Racing in 2nd, and the Bennett Monte Calvo Core Autosport car in 3rd. Note the championship leaders coming in here, Gunnar Jeanette and Gonzalez in 4th position, and that's going to tighten things right up at the top of the championship standings as we move into the final 2 races of the season. So let's get down to hear from our winners with Kelly.
Well, for the 2nd time this season, Tommy Drisi and Kyle Marcelli have paired up and taken a win here in this LMPC class. Gosh, everyone's been talking about the track here at Baltimore. How tough was that win?
Physically, I think it was more tough than anything. This place beats you up. And, I mean, your head's constantly banging around every lap. You know, Tommy did a great job in his first stint. gave me the car in the lead, and I just had to do my job after that. For a while, I was hanging on to the P1 cars, and I thought we might have had a shot at something overall. But, you know, the team gave me a great car, and I can't complain.
Congratulations, you guys.
Awesome day.
I love the fact that he's won his Classic come third wasn't quite enough there for that young man. In GTC, it's another win and a return to form and a return to the top step of the podium for Black Swan Racing, with Alex Jubb Racing a fabulous second place for Bill Sweedler and Lee Keane, and what a great race for the Stanton Potter combo, and Magnus Racing back in the American Le Mans Series. They'll get third on the podium. And look at that, down in 6th position, the championship leaders coming into this event. Well, they've salvaged some points at least from Baltimore.
Well, Tim Pappas told us earlier this weekend they were planning on dominating. He said Jerome Blekemolen is dynamite on a street course. Jerome, you did not let him down. How easy was this victory?
Well, I have to say the team did everything right. I mean, Tim did a great stint keeping it in the lead and actually pulling a little gap on the 23 car. And then the guys did a great stop bringing me out in front after a yellow. So it was really tight, but we just made it. And then, yeah, I just had to keep it there. But car was good and everything worked out today, so really happy.
Up front, flag to flag, congratulations.
Yeah, if you just look at the lap chart, it's going to look fairly easy for the 54 car, but far from that. Again, a very well organised and tactically perfect race for the Black Swan Racing team. Now, as many of the crowd are making their way away, there'll be plenty of stories to tell from this inaugural running of the Baltimore Grand Prix. I think it's been a great success. Now, let's have a look at the race within the race for the Michelin Green X Challenge. Remember, clean, fast and efficient adds up to a better race for the planet, and it's Team Falcon Tyre who win it, but only just from the 56 BMW and the 3 Corvette in the Grand Touring category. And if we move on to the prototypes, and remember, it's very important, not just for the planet, but also there is an invite to Le Mans 2012 up for grabs for the overall winners in category. And we will be announcing that at Petit Le Mans, the final race of the season. And the Autocon 12 car will take the accolade for the Green X Challenge in the prototype category, and that does their chances of that invite to Le Mans 2012 in the Le Mans 24 hours. Well, Craig Stanton eventually came third in GTC, but what a great battle. Let's hear from him now.
It was a great fight for you, Craig Stanton. How hard were you pushing in the closing stages of this race?
If the scale is 10, it was about 12. It was awesome. Being right behind Lee, you know, Alex Job does always a great job. Magnus Racing, number 77 Porsche, was perfect. You know, Lee just did an awesome job. I wasn't going to dirty him up at all. You know, it's really, the consequences are pretty high. Here's my guys right, they're the best guys on the planet. Black Swan did a great job with Jerome. He's always awesome at this stuff.
Great fight.
You know, the fans, it's amazing to see all the fans up and down this street course. I love this track and I can't wait to come back.
Definitely put on a show. Thank you.
Put on a show. The fans made us welcome. The city's made us welcome. Jeremy, what do you say about a 2-hour entertainment like that?
Well, I mean, I think Craig Stanton kind of summed it up there, but for me, the stars of the race, Stephen Kane was magnificent. Kyle Marcelli was superb in LMPC. Brian Sellers, absolutely incredible in GT. That was a great race.
We're off to California, Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca, September the 16th for qualifying in ESPN 3, and then live on the 17th at 4:15 Eastern, and again on Sunday on ESPN 2 at 1 o'clock. Well, they came in their tens of thousands, and the American Le Mans Series has not disappointed. From flag and right at the first corner to the checkers here at Baltimore and the Inner Harbour, it's been a street fight par excellence. For Jeremy Shaw and the rest of the team, I'm John Hindhoff. Bye for now.